Here's an old one from around 9 years ago. As past readers know, my older brother is the type of person who lets the tiniest bit of power go to his head. So if he wanted things his way, he'd try like hell to make it happen. My dad, even now, with a bad knee and bad back, is a camping enthusiast. It also was always his way of taking a vacation without spending a lot of money. Back then, he insisted we all camp together in summer once a year. Back then, we never had anything fancy to go camping like trailers or RVs, just tents. That year that I finally decided to buy a bigger tent because I'd been using a small ice one until then. Before having my own tent, I was forced to share one with my brother. Those days really sucked. If there's one thing I'd always disliked about tent camping back then, it's that I was never comfortable when trying to sleep. Either sleeping on the ground, sleeping on an air mattress, or on foam padding. It was never comfortable. Some people act like air mattresses are comfortable, but they really aren't. When fully inflated, they feel hard, and when underinflated, the air moves around too much depending on how you lay on it. And most air mattresses I've used sprung leaks and were always going flat by morning. So that year, I decided to look into something better. A friend of mine showed me this cot he'd recently bought. It was a brand called Timber Ridge, and it was pretty damn comfortable, almost like a real bed. So I decided I was going to find one of these for myself, and I did. Got one used for $100 or so on Marketplace, and I got a nice-sized tent to go with it from the same seller. I still have that cot, too. Back then, I was driving my old Camry wagon. I do miss that car from time to time, but having my Tundra is just better. No one really expected me to show up with a better tent and a cot. My dad applauded my new stuff, but my brother was his usual self about it and said cots were nothing special. Then he mocked me for buying the cot and tent used. But that night I slept like a log. My brother slept on an air mattress like usual, and I guess thought I'd have a terrible night, because I usually didn't sleep well when camping back then. But I woke up that morning feeling good. And I did brag about how good the cot and more spacious tent were. That made my brother fume. Later, I caught him taking a nap on my cot after I'd put it out to lay in the sun and just got angry that I'd woken him up. He loved the cot, though, and was very upset I made him get off of it. We have a family policy. If it's 100% yours and you bring it, you get to use it when you want it. Later, my brother gave me that age-old I've been thinking line. He tried to pull older brother seniority and said he'd be using my tent and cot for the rest of the camping trip. I told him no in an instant. But he tried to dismiss me. We were about to get in a fight about it when our parents intervened. My brother lied and said I'd told him he could use my tent and cot, but no one believed him because that's how he always was. Dad even played it off as him being a bad joker, which made him fume. Then he just stormed back to his own tent like a kid. Later that evening, after a hike, I discovered he'd actually taken my cot from my tent and put it in his own. We had an argument, and Dad made him return the cot to my tent, and my brother sulked the whole time he was doing it. Later on at dinner, he had a tantrum over how the air mattress sucked compared to my cot, and I chimed in about that being the reason why I'd bought it in the first place. We spent the rest of the camping trip with my brother glaring daggers at me. I half expected him to do something like take a knife and cut holes in my tent, but he and I both knew that Dad would make him pay for anything of mine he broke. And then I'd just replace them with the same kind of stuff. He ended up having a miserable time sleeping on his air mattress because, in his own words, once he'd slept on the cot, the air mattress was just no good to him anymore. And when it was time to leave, he said next time he was getting a better tent and cot than mine. I just waved and told him good luck with that, which prompted him to tell me to go screw myself. Dad actually smacked him upside the head for that. I still chuckle remembering it. I knew he'd likely follow through with getting better stuff back then, and he did. But I'm glad I got to stick it to him that time. Later in the summer, my dad insisted on another family trip. That's when my brother showed up with a new cot and tent, and bragged about how he'd bought them new, unlike me, but he spent 3 or 4 times what I did on my tent and cot. The cots were the same brand, too, but while mine was green, his had grass camo printed on the fabric. He was really irked when I just kept ignoring his bragging, too. Once he realized I just didn't care, things moved on to be more or less normal, but he still went out of his way to get on my nerves. Of course, when I bought a truck and then later camper trailer, that opened up a whole new can of worms. My brother always had to make everything a pissing contest. He's only recently been getting better about not doing that, as my older posts may show the reasons why. Edit. I've noticed my post has a lot of people curious about cots, and what good ones there are. Well, here's my take on them. First thing is make sure you get a cot with a decent weight limit. Mine can hold over 350 pounds. You don't want a cot that uses metal springs for tension. Those springs will bend and wear out easily, and cots that use them generally have a weight limit of around 200 pounds. They are also generally flat and not very comfortable, and the springs are noisy. My timber ridge cot uses bungees instead of springs, and instead of just being flat, it cradles me a bit, so it's pretty comfortable to sleep on. And I'd still be using it if I didn't have my camper trailer now. The cot is currently in storage at my parents' house. My dad used to be a tent camper, but my parents use a pop-up camper now so he can sleep in a better bed due to his bad back. Secondly, what makes a good cot is padding. Yes, there are super lightweight cots that fold out of a small carry-on, but they aren't very comfortable and are way too complex and easy to break. Take it from the camping enthusiast, though I'm more of a glamper now. Anyway, my Timber Ridge cot has good padding on it, and using it in conjunction with a sleeping bag is great. However, if you're using blankets or just sleeping on it as is, a cot is great with the summer heat, because since you aren't sleeping on a mattress, cool air collects under the cot and cools your back. Not great in the winter, so use a sleeping bag then, but great in the summer. Cots with good padding will keep you comfortable. Cots like mine are easy to find for sale online. You can order one, or you can get online to whatever site you use to buy used things off other people and see if someone is selling one locally. You can get a good cot like that a lot cheaper depending on the seller. To start off, usually, my son is a good kid. I just feel like we are giving him too much. I think that he has never really hard to work super hard. He does have a black belt and just passed his second-degree blackboard in Taekwondo. He is an Eagle Scout. We didn't do those things for him. He also gets up early to go to a religious class, which he decided he wanted to take that starts at 5:50 a.m. He goes to church willingly and helps there. He wants to serve a mission for our church after high school and then go to university to get a degree in engineering. The problem is he has always tried to sneak on electronics his whole life. He has his own computer, and he has a device the district provides, which we have to dole out time on because he can't seem to get anything done unless he has someone babysitting him. He is 17 years old. He has been about an A or B student. He takes honors classes, but his grades completely tanked third quarter and have not come back up. We can check grades, and I think he is failing 3 out of 6 classes and 2 C's and a D. His problem is he can't seem to put his Chromebook away during school hours. Usually, he is just watching YouTube videos that are just a waste of time when he should be doing schoolwork. My husband and he think that he should be able to take some breaks, like to play a game or whatever. I said, go on a walk, have a snack, or something short, but you only have less than a month to pull up the grades. He got suspended from school, which has never happened before, for 2 days. He was on his Chromebook and was looking at some anime that was not appropriate, so they suspended him. I am not thrilled about that at all, and he knows our rules. He was pretty open about it, and we went back on his school device and saw his history. It isn't a problem that has been going on for very long, but he should know better to definitely not do that at school, and if he got caught at home, he would be in huge trouble also. I didn't know Instagram was so lenient about its policies on what was allowed to be posted and never checked the history of what he was looking at on Instagram because I am friends with all of his Instagram friends. I did talk to the dean of students, and he was just as surprised as I was that Instagram could get pictures like that on a school device. Why do those the school device need to go to Instagram? I have been pretty calm, and I literally have given up all my plans for the last couple of days to make sure he is getting his work done while at home and not attending school. I am a homemaker. My husband, his dad, and my son think he should be trusted because he worked for one day yesterday well. I think trust is earned, and it can't just come back in one day. Is my son acting entitled? He thinks that if it is after school hours, he should be able to take a small computer break. I think that he can find other things to do until school is out. I did take away his phone about a month ago. I think that with less than a month before school is out, he just needs to work his tail end off and see if he can pass his classes. It is frustrating because he tests very well and got a 1340 on the SAT. He does have ADHD. I am at a loss. I am trying to be a supportive parent, but I also think that maybe we have spoiled my son. I am being a bit hard-nosed about you. We'll get every assignment in even if you don't get credit. We just can give him more than I was given, and I have always kind of worried about that. We got a car for him to drive that I am driving right now that is brand new. We have said it is not your car, just so we can take it away if we need to take it away. My husband gets employee discounts on leases through his company, but the lease is still about $600 a month. My son isn't paying for any of it because it is only our second car, and that helps us also. We only had one car before he got his learner's permit. My husband didn't want him driving our nice car and get in a crash. So we leased a car because of the safety features. And if he gets in an accident that totals the car, we can just stop paying for the car. He hasn't got his license yet, so I have been driving it when he doesn't drive me places to practice. I think we should wait to make him get his license, but my husband thinks that is a punishment to us. He is going to retake the driving test. He took it about 3 weeks ago and failed. I think that he needs to get his grades up and then he can take the test again. We are paying for the test also. He doesn't have a job and we pay him each quarter for his grades. Nothing big. He gets $12 per A+, $10 per A8 per A-, and then $7 for AB+, $5 for Bs, and nothing for C. Am I raising an entitled person? My goal as a parent is to teach my kids to be hardworking, kind, and honest. That is all I care about. I think that is what makes a successful person.